Hey guys, so I woke up a little while back and I had this incredible experience that I'm contemplating on now, but I decided to actually record a video and bring it out into a 3D physical vibrational sound world fully to see how it lays out when it's in a linear form. But it went something like this. I woke up in my tent, by the way, and that my first thought was, oh my God, I'm in this incredible open space. Finally, I have broken down some walls, some extra walls, because I usually camp. I camp all the time, and I usually camp in my car. Rarely do I put out a tent, and now I just started feeling like I'm ready to just sleep by myself in a tent in the forest under the stars. And I thought, what a beautiful thing that just happened to me, because I'll tell you what I do. A lot of times I would check in on my immediate environment to see my internal state, to observe where it is that I'm right now internally and on my spiritual path, where I'm at mentally. A lot of times our immediate environment will tell us exactly what is going on inside. We don't need to, go to, well, maybe somebody does need to go to, to somebody to talk to about, but a lot of times for me, it's enough to just observe what's going on in my immediate 360 to kind of read the environment and see like tin, 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 tin. Okay, this means this means that. Okay, that's what's going on. Or like read a, someone would refer to it maybe like communicating with spirit, right? And receiving a message, a channeling, a guidance from, somebody would call it angels. To me it's reading the environment. It's like that's how what I do. I connect to my environment, I read it, it speaks to me. And although I do feel like it is innately external, I do feel like it is such a part of me. And this contemplation in the morning was exactly about it. So as I woke up in the tent under the stars in this vast open space outside of the car already, and I started observing myself, and I thought, wow, I broke down those walls, those some extra walls. Something must have clicked, internally. I must have passed through another like spiritual lesson or something to be able to sleep like this and to really enjoy being alone outside in the forest under the stars and not be afraid of it. And this happened naturally. I didn't push myself to it. But then the reason I woke up, because I felt still constricted in my sleeping bag, because I like to sleep outside of the sleeping bag. I like to sleep with the blanket and with my legs just all over, and I love to like put the blanket in between my knees, in between my thighs. Like if I'm not on the side of the blanket when I sleep with my kids, I can't be in the middle because I can't do that. It feels constricted to me. And same way I felt in the morning, and I thought to myself, oh my God, here I am in this vast open space. I broke down the construction, I broke down like the matrix, the construction of the physical walls, thick walls and thick roof of the building. And here I am in nature with these very thin walls already, almost, a part of my environment. And yet I still feel constricted. And I thought, I wonder what it is. What does it entail that is happening to me internally? And I started just exploring the whole idea, and this is this contemplation. And I feel like we have this innate need to have something separate us from the rest of the world simply because of the way we are born. When we are in the womb, right? First, we're separated by the placenta from this being, which is your mom, your womb, where you're separated by the placenta from a being that is like the Akash, the record, the Akash, that holds all the information that you're going to be built from and all the information of the entire world, because I think every being holds all the information of the entire universe. So you are in this sack, separated, basically you're being separated out from the environment, becoming the self that comes from the environment. And this thin layer of protection that we are born into, that protects us from all this, from becoming back all the information, from becoming the all, right, within the womb. I feel like that's what it is that we're trying to recreate our whole life. And I know that in psychology there is this understanding of the mother wound, right, where the separation from the mother, that the first thing that happens is the separation from the womb as at birth, and thus, you know, we all carry this original wound with us. And I think that it is it is not just that we carry the wound of separation because we're separated from the mother, but within the mother we're already separated. And therefore we keep on repeating and repeating this information and building these walls, and thicker and thicker and thicker walls around us, and yearning for like a bigger house with thicker walls and more rooms, and thus separating ourselves further and further from the environment, trying to recreate that feeling of security that we've always felt in the womb. But as you begin to break down some invisible walls internally within yourself, as you begin to move towards the all, away from this separated state from the all these walls, they begin to thin out and to break down. And as you move onto the spiritual path, my hand is tired, as you move as you decide to walk a spiritual path, you a lot of times understand that the building of the physical walls is a representation of your internal state of being, of all this separation that you've built from everybody, from the environment, and that this is basically like building your own prison, right? That also holds you back from experiencing oneness. Well, maybe it's not a prison, maybe that's what you came here to experience, right? But I know that I thought I wanted a big home and I wanted a house and that I needed for survival, until I went on the spiritual path. And then all you want to do is be outside, right? You're like, forget houses, forget all of that. I mean, that's necessary when the elements are taking over, right? When the elements are like snow or storm or wind or heavy rain, when they're present, and you need to protect yourself. But even that is questionable. I think, you know, there were native people who lived here for such a long time, and they did, you know, have thousands of years of beautiful life here without, you know, constructing all these walls. But this is not about that. What I'm trying to explore is my personal separation from from the environment and how these walls are thinning, and I can see them by observing my immediate environment. I can see my internal walls breaking down and thinning, and how, I used to want to have a house and to have it all, and then it all changed, and I realized that the freedom is to actually break all of that down and and enter the world, so to speak, without protection, and just allow, because you are the part of this environment. You are the part of this oneness, and you don't need protection from it. It is not going to offend you. It is not going to attack you and kill you, right? You're actually going to just be kind of like harnessed by it and swayed by it and move with it in this, as a wave would carry you. But when this happens naturally, right, when you're breaking down the walls naturally, and I'll tell you how I do it. So I don't know if you've ever read the book called The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, and the book is phenomenal, and it explains, as all of us human beings having these 64 original codons, I think that he calls them, which are pretty much these lessons that we're here to uncover within ourselves. And these lessons are constricted, right? Under these shadows, under the snakes, but it's not a bad thing. So basically, when you're going through a shadow state, when you're feeling constricted, it means you're entering the lesson, that now you're going to be uncovering the gift, which is your internal gift, which is hidden under certain shadow, thus shadow work. So you're working through the shadow, you're unconstricting yourself, you're breaking down the walls, you're taking down this thing off of this codon, and then bam, you uncover a gift. And that gift can come in the form of knowing, in the form of a skill, in the form of just simple understanding, and your ability to move through life with ease, going forward, right? Let's say you have had something that was stopping you, and when you worked through this shadow, through this constriction, when you took it down, sorry, I'm trying to have my hair look all pretty. When you had this shadow, when you release the shadow, when you worked through it, you've unlocked the gift, and now you're free to move to further lessons, to next stories. Because believe me, if you think about it, we're all learning the same lessons. It's just how they come to us and which shadows are covering them, and how we work through those shadows to unlock the gifts. And then after the gift, you can unlock, just think about it. So I'm looking at it right now as the thinning of the walls, as the breaking down of the matrix. Like, I always think of the matrix in two ways, because we live in the world of duality. I perceive the matrix as our mother, as this natural environment, this fascia that extends all around us, and the fascia that connects all of our organs. I see it actually being around us. And I think if you have like a stimulant induced experience, like if you're taking some sort of a drug, you can see that fascia. It's kind of like a bubble layer that is all around everything. It's like a goo, like slime, and it connects all the things and all of your limbs together. And it's just invisible to us here, but now we know that that's what's going on inside our bodies, which we're not separate from this environment that operates like this, where it's just the experience of separation that we're now experiencing. But if we are thinning down of those walls. Well, basically, it works like this with fascia too in the body, because I teach Pilates and I know I study the body, I study physiology, which is also just a representation of everything that's going on within the spiritual world. But this is just within the physical. I'm learning it through the physical body, through this physical tools that are available to us, but I see right through them and into the spiritual, into the mental, into the emotional spheres, and I know that they work very similarly. And when we have this thinning down of the walls, we actually get more movement, because it also happens with the fascia, that when the fascia is thick, it is very hard to move. You need your fascia to be thin and moist so that everything can glide over it. So body parts are sort of enveloped into it, and this whole internal movement is smooth and pleasant, and because it can glide. But when you get constrictions within the fascia, or like it's not hydrated, it is hard to move, it is painful to move, you feel aches and pains, you don't understand, you feel tightening. And so is with the reality, right? So when we're breaking down the walls, when we're thinning down the walls, the movement feels great. And actually it's funny, because as I returned back to Pilates and I started exercising and moving and then hydrating my fascia, I've manifested this experience, this tent experience, which I usually camp in my van, and I rarely tent camp outside because, I'm myself, and guys, it's so beautiful outside. So I rarely do this whole thing with setting up a tent on my own. With my kids, yeah, but on my own, in the forest, under the stars, it sounds really cool until you're actually here. And then when you start hearing animals walking around, right, it becomes a whole different experience that sometimes I'm not ready for. And I'm like, well, I have a beautiful little bed in my minivan and I feel great there, so why bother? But since I came back to working out and like moving my body, I feel like I probably thinned out my fascia, and now it is representing itself in my outside world as my ability to sleep in a tent and feel so comfortable and safe and feel just like really chill about it. Otherwise, I felt tense about having thin walls. Do you see how it kind of translates all the way through? You don't know what the cause and the effect is, what causes what came first, what came last. And coming back to the cities, the gifts. So if you are working through a constriction, through a shadow, you thin down the wall, you unlock the gift, then you can move further in life with some sort of feeling of ease, feeling of lightness, because you figured something out internally. Something doesn't bother you anymore. Something is not constricting your movement forward anymore. And then if you choose to go further within that particular direction, you can unlock a city. And a city, I believe, I don't think he explains it there, but I believe that a city is like a quantum leap gift, right? So it's beyond your ability to just overcome. It's you're not only overcoming, but you're also expanding on the idea so much. You're quantum leaping. You're going so deep within that certain direction that you are able to lift the entire humanity along with you through the use of morphogenetic fields. So basically you unlock something so new, so deep, something that nobody have unlocked before, such freedom that it is now imprinted in the akasha, in the immediate environment, and other people have now achieved that too, just because you on your own achieved that. And in the physical, it manifests something like this. It manifests as you becoming an absolute wizard at something, becoming an absolute pro at something, you know, like an absolute genius, like going into one sphere, sticking with it, and expanding it beyond what everybody knew. Like, if I think about somebody like that, I would think about like Pascal Bedard and his foraging. Like, he took it to a whole different level. He figured out, you have to check out his page, and I take his classes and his books, and he just took our knowledge of the environment and he expanded it exponentially. Like, he quantum leaped with it so much, and now all of us have heard the call, have gotten the whiff of this deliciousness in the air, in our morphogenetic field that we're all connected with as human beings. And we're now interested in finding out and figuring out our immediate environment and how to take care of it, but also how to use all of these things that until he figured it out seemed like they were just plants surrounding us. Nobody ever cared, like, oh, which berry is this? Oh, can I eat it? It turns out, oh my God, it's edible. You know, I'm surrounded by all of this abundance that I never even knew how to utilize. I never knew that it was abundance, but he took it to a place where now everyone can access that abundance through the gates that he has opened. So he basically knows all of the plants and how to use them, how to process them in such a way that they become nutritionally available and also tasty to the palate of the modern human being. And I'm talking about like weeds, like things that we would want to throw away, not know. And he just like figured out this whole new era for everyone of how to of sustenance. Now, as I'm contemplating on this, and I'm realizing, okay, I must have thinned down some walls inside of me. I must have worked through some shadow and opened up this gift of being able to stay in the tent outside by myself under the stars in fresh air. Yet again, as I said, something is still holding me a little bit back. I can feel it because I felt constricted in my tent. I mean, in my sleeping bag. So I'm already outdoors, but something is still holding me back. And I'm wondering if this is this original wound that we're all are born with, that is separating us from our mother, which in the external looks like us being separated from this matrix, the mother, the matrix that I didn't even finish that thought. So at some point I think of the matrices two being dual. So one of the matrices is this just informational matrix that can be constricting and can, what I call, be the construction, and the construction around us, the construction of the walls, the construction of the thick walls, and from very like hard materials to protect ourselves. And I think that within the outside, it manifests as the building of these buildings and tall buildings and our homes and freeways and highways, and sometimes diverting entire rivers, diverting flows, river flows, putting them into dams and closing the rivers with cement walls and directing them into places that we want them to flow, so that we think that this is the way to sustain all of our cells, all of our population. Nevertheless, we're changing the course of life. Internally, I think that this matrix, this construction, this constriction, manifests as a calcification of the glands, like right, like the buildings and the freeways are built, and the dams and the waterways are built from cement. It's kind of like a representation of our calcification of glands and channels, and also the hardening of our fascia that also extends outward. And when something hardens inside, everything outside will also manifest as being hard to the touch. As you begin to break down and thin down those walls, there is that other side of matrix that becomes our mother, right? Like instead of the ice queen, it becomes the soft, like awoken environment, right? So I think of matrix as being dual like that, like just like we are dual, right? It can either work with you or it can work against you. It can be ice cold to you, just like whatever is going on within your body, or it can manifest itself as the soft, gentle, nurturing, nourishing environment that is that you are immersed into, and that eventually you're going to become a part of. So as I'm contemplating on this, there are so many other thoughts and so many other possibilities that come to mind, and I'm thinking, okay, well, so I'm on a spiritual path, and I'm working on things internally, and as I break down these walls, I manifest these experiences more and more, where now I'm like half the time I'm in the city with my children, and half the time I'm in nature, and I'm not in any apartment, I'm not within any walls, and I'm, well, in my car, and now I've transitioned to the tent. But what happens to all those who are, like, let's say in Los Angeles City, who are homeless? What have happened there? Are they breaking down their walls, and we just are failing to see that this is what's happening, and we perceive it as something negative and as something crazy, just because we are not capable of yet seeing that level of reality in any different way, right? We are so scared of it that we have this wall of protection, this veil through which we see such an experience, and we think of it only as negative and crazy. And this is not to say that homelessness is good. This is me just like kindly exploring my mind, my inner workings of my mind loudly with you, like telling you fully, completely, and honestly where my mind goes and how it works, because to me it is fascinating. And I think that a lot of times I think of this like, what if all these people are simply like have transitioned, have broke down some internal walls, and now are facing homelessness now, because, and like are sleeping in tents because their walls are so thin. And then I'm thinking, well, that experience a lot of times, right, happens because of, it is induced by drugs. And then voila, it like totally makes sense, because drugs thin out the walls between realities. So if you do it in the wrong way, in a wrong sort of, if you're not pacing yourself, right? If you're not allowing this to happen to you naturally, but you're inducing the state of breaking down of the walls with drugs, then you just end up homeless, right? So that is the difference. That is the difference of, going out and being in nature and in a tent voluntarily because of the thinning of the wall between you and your environment. Between you kind of returning to the all, right? You want to spend more and more time in nature, you away from all the construction and constriction and all the walls. You want to you still be comfortable, right? You still have your body, you still have some sort of like a thin layer that protects you, let's say, from the elements that you're still not used to, although I dare to touch base on that too, and a little bit later. Or if you're having this thinning down of the walls, not voluntarily, but because of the drugs, and all of a sudden you thin down the walls between the realities and you end up homeless, you end up in a tent in the physical world, right? Because you have not gotten there gradually, intentionally, with your own voluntarily, basically. But this just kind of, it's kind of like, is the world happening to you, or what is the saying? Oh, I can't believe I'm forgetting that right now. Yeah, it's kind of like, are you when you understand that the world is not happening to you, but the world is happening through you. Yay. So basically that's the difference when you're allowing these walls to break down. And here's how they break down naturally. So even in the gene keys, he mentioned it, well, that's how the whole gene key works, how to unlock the gifts and the cities. But I knew it like way before the book. But it happens when you create a chemical reaction, right? It's like lessons in chemistry. You're creating a hormonal reaction, and that those hormones, they act like a code that then enter into the genes and unlock certain memories. And sorry, I'm like trying to my hair to look okay. I haven't washed them in such a long time. I feel a little self-conscious about yeah, how I look. Coming back, yes, to the gene keys and creating a chemical reaction. So you can induce a chemical reaction with a drug, or what I've been doing is I figured out, what makes me happy and which things feel good and create these hormones that, I've been stressed my whole life up until like a very late age. I've been very happy, but also I went through so much in my life. I went through so much stress that I think that everything within me that could have been unlocked with the stress hormone has already been unlocked. And I'm not, it's like, that's it. I've reached the ceiling. I've reached the brick wall. There is nothing else to unlock by creating these stressful, dramatic experiences in my life. So at some point I was like, well, I think the only way, and this is the scariest part, it's the scariest thing when you're like, realize that the only way forward is through pleasure, because your whole life you've been manifesting things and learning lessons and growing and expanding through pain. And then you're like, you're in out of all of that, of all the doors that required those keys, those hormones, the stress hormones to be unlocked. It's very hard to transition into a state where everything you need is happiness and joy to unlock. It took me a little to realize that that's what's happening, that all the rest of the doors are going to only be open through these joy and laughter and happiness and allowance and all these positive things. It takes just as much work for me, I think, to transition into this state that as it took for me to get out of the stressful state, basically, or to deal with the stressful state. So I have started creating these experiences for myself where I actually go and do what is happy, because I realize that there is nothing more important to me on this journey, in this lifetime, than this journey that I'm on. And it is it has been with me through from my childhood all the way up until this present moment. And it has been nothing but magical, even when it was stressful and scary. And I think my entire experience is extremely fascinating. And just hear like people walking, and it feels like it's on my campsite. Oh, that's a deer, guys. Guys, that's a deer. Oh my god, I hope you saw it. Oh, there it is. Hi, dear. Hi, baby. So that's what kept distracting me. I'm like, I keep hearing this in my behind my tent, and I'm like, I know there are no people there, so who is this? Who is this? Maybe somebody new arrived. But all right, so coming back to our conversation, and I'm doing this like without time constraint. Just, you want to listen to it, you listen to it. You want to listen to it in pieces, listen to it in pieces. You want to not listen to it, don't. Whatever you feel. But I really will enjoy this contemplation within the physical, within the 3D, because most of my contemplation happens internally. I never really grounded like with words sometimes, but it feels necessary. It feels nice, and it feels like it will be a good learning lesson to me, because I'm looking at this. I'm already at 37 minutes, describing to you about like a 1 to 3 minute experience that happened to me this morning, right? So this is how incredibly slow the time is here in this 3D environment, and how everything happens so simultaneously within my mind space. Well, so what were we talking about? We were talking about contemplate. We were talking about how the thinning of the wall happens, whether it happens so quick that you are, and it is induced by a synthetic drug, and it means like you are not going through an experience to generate the hormone naturally, right? To naturally allow yourself to be drawn into experience. This is a synthetic thing that's happening. It happens too fast for you to think or to come up with a plan for your life, where you just end up on the street and you end up homeless, right? And of course, in the very physical 3D world, it looks like this, like, oh, you got addicted to drugs, and of course you spend all your money on drugs, and you cannot work anymore, and you end up homeless, right? But in a very like energetic world, it happens like this, like you, instead of going through an experience naturally, right, instead of finding an experience that will stimulate your hormonal secretion, that will unlock a certain lesson for you, and then unlock a gift for you, you have paid for a pill, a synthetic stimulant that sped the entire experience up for you and secreted this hormone for you, but now you don't know what to do with it, right? So you don't know what to do with yourself. Yet you know that you've enjoyed the experience, but it was so fast. This experience is so sped up that you're constantly craving more and more of it, because it's so small, right? Because it's so fast. So you're constantly wanting to come back to that experience. Meanwhile, if you were choose not to do the drug and do it naturally, it would just happen. You will just actually enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, and not chase the high, because the entire journey is like this sustained high. It's like this sustained wonder. And believe me, I'm speaking from experience, because I've done drugs before in my life, and I've been completely clear from absolutely everything, like alcohol, drugs, smoking, anything, for many years now. And I know the difference between the two, and I know that they can lead to the same place, but like sleeping in the tent, the thinning of the wall, right? But how you get there is so important, because you will either have enough time to collect yourself and realize that this is happening and this is the direction you're going into, and that you're probably are not one to stay in the matrix that is built with homes homes and houses, and you don't want to be a part of that, right? And you start moving slowly into the direction of that freedom of maybe you know building something small and simple, and something that does not require a lot of attention, something that can just be there on its own as you travel and explore the world. And then you can maybe come back to it in like whenever the environment is going through like a winter or something like that, right? Like winter village for yourself, where you can camp over the bad weather, and the rest of the time you're just one with the environment, right? And you have time to contemplate on how to set up your life so it gently takes you there, and you're still able to survive in this matrix world, dominated world that we build in, where everything requires money, right? Most of the things for now, right? But we're tipping over into that other direction, where people realize that it doesn't have to be this way, and you can thin down the walls and you can become more with the environment. You just have to learn about the environment and with what abundance it has to offer to you, and how to utilize that abundance. But then when you're reaching for this same, basically when you're going through this experience, it's like a high, right? Like you're on top of the world, because you're slowly releasing these incredible hormones through your body. They're unlocking the keys, and they're unlocking the doors, they're unlocking the gifts, they're unlocking new experiences, and every day is like full of magic. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe this is real. And you're like so inspired, and it's so hard to explain to others, because it is so magical. It's beyond, as opposed to you feeling that like, feeling that high real quick, and you're like, oh, that was awesome, because you used the drug, right? That was awesome. I want to do it again, right? So of course you end up speeding up the entire process without figuring out down the way what it is, how it is that you're going to enter into this new state of being, where the walls are very thin, where you might need to live in a tent, where you might might not have a home or a house for as your support system, or as a system that you support, right? Because you have decided to now have a different experience, and this different experience is outside of this hard matrix, outside of this basically it cannot be existing parallel to the hard rules of the material world, right? It's like you have to take that leap, you have to take that dive. You cannot want to thin down the walls and then build yourself a bigger house and hope that happens, right? It's just not going to work that way. It's one of those trust falls that you can fall and allow your and if you trust, then your environment will reflect that and it will catch you. But if you fall because you effed up, right, and you did like drugs and you can't stop, then that's what you're manifesting as your environment, and basically it will not catch you, and you're going to end up having a completely different experience. So basically two realities parallel existing to each other, all based on how you enter them, right? Whether you enter them in trust and voluntarily, or whether you enter them through pain and drug induction induced high, the chasing of the high, right? So a synthetic experience or a natural experience, an experience that plays itself out at a speed that is required for you to stay sane and for you to stay healthy and actually enjoy the ride, as opposed to with such a fast speed that, yeah, it'll give you high, but it will not allow enough time for your body to adjust to it. And therefore, through the body, we manifest our external environment. So that is another thing that I'm contemplating on as I'm speaking about this experience that I had in the morning. And then, then there are this other people, and I know from this family that I used to rent a house from here when I would come up here with kids years ago, and I'm in Manchester, by the way. So this family, they told me, like, when they travel, they kayak down these rivers. There are these incredible rivers here in Trinity Alps. And they stay sleeping in the forest with the children. And they say, the parents said, oh, the children, like, the conversation started because I wanted to sleep outside of the house. And I was like, is it safe? They're like, of course it's safe. I mean, there are bears, but, rarely they'll come up to you or whatever, and this is like, you just decide how you want to live your life. And this is, by the way, like a Bambi land. These are not the bears here are like super skittish. They're like they'll be curious, but you just say a word and they'll just run away. But they said that, oh yeah, go sleep outside under the stars with the kids. And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, oh, our kids do it all the time. Yeah, when we go and we kayak down the rivers, they don't really even take their sleeping bags. I'm like, do they take their personal tents? They're like, no, they take like a blanket and they go off. They go off into the forest and they want to sleep by themselves. They don't want, at times they don't even want to sleep like next to each other. Kids, like all the children just spread out. And to me, that just shows of a different possibility of, this new generation of beings that have completely broken down the walls with the environment and are becoming one with her. And I think saying that it's something new is also unfair, because there have been thousands of years here with millions of people who lived just like this on this land without this very hard matrix that we've brought in with us. I'm talking about native people. They of course had shelters and stuff, but everything was moving, like the moving fascia, right? They would have summer villages that everybody would spread out and look like, some people would take care of this part of the land, some people would take care of this part of the land, and then they would all meet up in the winter when the fascia constricts a little bit, right? Everybody meets up and stays in one place. The movement stops because of the cold. Oh my God, so much is revealing itself to me through this conversation, and that is exactly why. Yes, so winter villages, so being one with the environment is nothing new. And these winter villages and, this way of life have existed, and we just changed it. We brought something completely else, completely different. We said, oh, we need to build big cities and big walls and big buildings and separate ourselves from the environment to the point where we now like have to relearn everything about her because we're so separated, right? That we're now beginning to experience the opposite, where we're breaking down these walls and we're spending more time in nature and we're learning about, what surrounds us and like all this sustenance that is available to us that doesn't have to be grown inside the walls or on the farms or in this constructions, in this constrictive spaces that we have created to feel safe, to have this to cover up this innate wound of being not is it a wound, this just innate state of being. I don't know if it's a wound, right? If we're born into it, into this world by being separated by the placenta from the environment to create ourselves, which is a separation from the whole, right? Then I guess it's a natural state for us to want to recreate that as we are born, as we enter this world, keep recreating it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Natural part of the journey. But what I was going to say is the incredible thing happened to me when I was fasting. And I'm talking about winter. And remember, I said I will come back to it. It's the idea that we need these walls, like, oh, well, when it snows or when it rains or when, we do need these walls. And of course, that's what it feels would be right. And by all means, we're so far away from that other state that I would say that for now, yes, it's absolutely necessary for survival. But I have experienced a state where I felt what being a part of the environment is truly like. I was fasting. I went on a dry fast, and I actually, it's kind of like a spirit quest for that the native kids used to go through to connect with their spirit guides and learn some lessons and stuff. So I did that, and I dry fasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and I thought that I was going to get very cold, which I did in the very beginning, the first couple of days when my metabolism was still activated. But when my metabolism, meaning like my gut metabolism, stopped, when I shut it down, and my other metabolism opened, meaning like my skin metabolism, because look, skin is our biggest organ and it can metabolize air and get all the nutrients from the air, because we think it's air, there's nothing there, but all the elements are present within a certain distance of certain objects, and you can you can derive water from air through your skin when necessary, only if you don't have the wall that tells you that it's impossible. And that wall, if it thins, which it did for me during the fast, allowed me to not be cold, to not be thirsty, to I've had such an incredible experience. I swam at that point in the coldest of lakes. I didn't want to get dressed as I got out of the water. As I was getting into a cold, like freezing cold water, it felt like it was a part of me. I really didn't feel it. I remember people being next to me like, what is going on? You never do this. You can't do this. This is too cold. This is, besides me like being super tiny and having zero body fat, and always needing like extra things to warm me up. And here I am, I'm just standing, I'm like, guys, I don't feel it. I don't feel the cold. I don't feel the cold. And I was completely alert. I was having the time of my life. And what I felt when I felt water, it was kind of like a line. I just felt like I was just passing through some sort of a line, but I felt like nothing changed because my internal environment was constantly matching the external environment, because I had slowed down my metabolism, because I've opened up my skin metabolism, and I also broke down that thick wall of separation between me and environment somehow through fasting. And I guess that's another way of like entering those types of states. I don't know, I'm not going to recommend any of that because I don't have the science on like the how healthy it is for all different individuals. For me, at the time, it was a natural progression of a juice fast that I was on that took me to this dry fasting, no water, no food, and worked out beautifully. I drank water from a creek through my skin. It was the first ever time that I've experienced anything like something like that, and then I researched it. I felt actually like I immersed myself into the water, and I was laying down, and all of a sudden I felt like my skin was sipping in the water around it. And then I got out of the lake, or this, it's not a lake, it's more like a stream, Dillon Creek. It was a creek, yeah. And I felt like I probably would not need to be drinking for a very long time since that experience, because I felt completely hydrated. Like my organs, everything was hydrated. My body got everything out of the water that it needed, even though I wasn't consuming it through my mouth. So that's another interesting thing where my mind is taking me. And there's like so many points that came together all at the same time during that 2-3 minute experience in the morning. But yeah, I just think it's so fun to look at like your immediate environment and start reading it. I am like a big fan of that, and I do recommend for you to try. And I'm still trying to figure out that, like, how is it that I am in this beautiful vast open space under the stars on top of the mountain in my tent, and how did I manage to still wake up feeling constricted? What it is that I'm going through right now that gave me that feeling of being open into this world and still having some sort of a boundary that constricts me. What can I work through internally to to allow that, to alleviate that from my experience and move even deeper into it. All right, so that's what I'm going to be contemplating on further. Are there any other points that I wanted to share with you about the thinning of the walls, seeing into different worlds, becoming homeless because you are becoming a part of the environment around you? What are other bullet points? I think that's it. This is where I'm gonna stop. And if something else comes back into my mind's eye, I will add on to this video. But I love you so much, and I'll be recording things as they're coming in. Bye.